Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'm Brendan with DocuWare, and I have the opportunity today to present to you DocuWare IDP, the next level of intelligent document processing with AI. Going into today, we're going to be a dual presentation. My name is Brendan Smith. I'm the Channel Sales Manager for the East, and I'll be walking you through the slides. And on the call, we have Chad, who's our Senior Solution Engineer. He'll be walking you through a brief demo of the system. Now, while we're here, please note that there is a chat window, so feel free to post any questions in that. There is time for Q&A later today. And getting into it. So, DocuWare IDP. When I was going through the slide decks and some of the assets and what I wanted to present today, I came across this slide, and I thought it was a little intense and a little melodramatic, but as I was thinking about kind of the messaging and what I wanted to say, it kind of made more and more sense. It's not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one that responds best to change. So we're living in a time of rapid and extreme change. I just thought that was extremely applicable because we need to respond to it. So this year, we've seen some of the most amazing technological advances due to AI. AI is helping to cure cancer, design new surgeries, create new cars, trains, planes, advanced engineering in PCB design. This is my personal favorite, car that creates music based on the landscape. So we're seeing all of this happen and all of these amazing things get accomplished with AI. But I would imagine many of you guys have had an experience that looks more like this. If you decide 1 plus 0.9 is 1.8, the AI will agree with it. So it's kind of hard to look at that and understand that this is the same technology that's going to cure cancer and usher in the new human age. So why is that? And why, when a company goes to implement AI in its processes, is this what the plan looks like? You know, I work with quite a few people that are going back and forth about how to implement AI. And one of the common things is they don't know where to start. They know that there's, a couple major AIs, but often they fail to recognize that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of smaller AIs that are really good at doing specific things. So everyone knows AI can do all of these amazing things, but for some reason, it just doesn't quite work the way you want. I kept this slide in here because, one, it makes me happy, and two, I thought it was incredibly high quality for an AI generation. The detail on the bird was pretty cool to me, but anyways. So now what are you going to do? You can't just ignore AI, and most organizations want to improve their workflows and processes with AI, but when theory starts to become practice, it tends to fall flat. And what a lot of the struggle has to do with is creating an actionable plan. There's all of these amazing technologies and they can do all these amazing things, but where do you start? How does this work for you? How do you configure it into the things that you need to do in your day-to-day work? Well, we're DocuWare, so let's start with documents. Because nobody loves paperwork. 3 million people working on documents right now. I guarantee every single one of them is not happy about it. And when we combine this AI technology with DocuWare, you can even take it a step further. ERP entries, CRM entries, SIS entries, QA entries, auditing, all of these paperwork-based processes are miserable. And we aren't using all of the tools available for us to simplify that. And we're wasting a lot of time because of it. So when I kind of think about the value of AI, what I kind of imagine is, for this example, let's say, my name's Brendan and I own Brendan's Tool Supply. And my co-presenter, Chad, same town, he owns Chad's Nail and Fastener. We're similarly priced, we have a similar business, and we compete against each other. It's a small town. And we both have a full-time clerk that manages, inventory paperwork, sales order paperwork, and even accounts payable processes. Unfortunately, my clerk this year, Peggy, decided to retire. I pay her $30 an hour with 2 weeks of vacation. It's about $60,000 annually. Hiring is a nightmare. Half of the resumes I get are fake or AI generated. And I just can't work out the noise. I don't have the time for it. So I decide to invest in an AI-based platform that specializes in paperwork tasks. So I have $60,000 to replace 2,000 hours of work. Where do I start? This little black box. So you guys are probably familiar with the term black box. The idea is, you put something in and something completely different comes out. And you may have even heard, junk in, junk out. And for 99% of people, that is really all AI has to be. But if we want to take a peek under the hood, we can really start to recognize that it's not this scary black box, but it's just a collection of different tools, some of which you're already using. Firstly, document management. At DocuWare, this is the core foundation of what we do. Workflow management, the ability to send these tasks and reviews and responses automatically within the system. Reporting, making all this data available for dashboards, inputs into other systems. Enterprise content management, the ability for DocuWare to work within a department and scale horizontally across an entire organization. It's enterprise-wide, and it allows you to interact with documents and content across the entire enterprise. But now what we're adding is, two big things to that discussion: artificial intelligence and intelligent document processing. With that, all of these tools combined, it's a little easier to look into that black box and have an idea of what's going on. So we're going to get into the agenda and get into it first. But before we do that, I'd like to just share a quick video made specifically for this type of occasion.
In today's fast-paced world, paperwork can be a bottleneck in any industry. Lost time, errors, and inefficiency are all too common. That's where DocuWare Intelligent Document Processing (IDP) steps in. Our agnostic AI automation platform is revolutionizing document management across industries, streamlining processes like never before. It doesn't just cater to one industry, it adapts to yours. Experience unparalleled data capture with our advanced OCR technology. It adeptly extracts the information you need from any document, even line items, be it invoices, delivery notes, identity cards, or any kind of document, seamlessly interpreting even the most complex handwritten texts. Say goodbye to manual document splitting and cropping. Our AI does it all automatically for you. Effortlessly classify documents to streamline your workflow. Our extraction feature unlocks valuable data, fueling your decision-making process. What truly sets DocuWare IDP apart is customization. You can train your own AI model based on your specific use case, document type, and workflow. We know each business has unique needs, so we create solutions that fit perfectly for yours. And for tech companies looking for seamless integration, DocuWare IDP offers robust OEM solutions. Imagine harnessing the full capabilities of OCR technology under your brand. Our white label service makes this possible, taking your tech offerings to new heights. Join forces with us and experience advanced features, cost efficiency, and rapid deployment while maintaining your brand integrity. From startups to tech giants, companies are scaling new peaks of success with our tailored AI integration. Ready to transform your document management? Try DocuWare IDP for free today and discover how we can elevate your business. DocuWare IDP, empowering industries one document at a time.
And now that we're back, I hope that gave a kind of good general understanding of what IDP is and what it's trying to do. But looking at the agenda, we'll get into that as well. So really what we want to cover today is what exactly is DocuWare IDP. We're going to talk about some of the sample use cases we see as being very valuable or time-saving. We're going to take a look at a live demo. And then because a lot of you are, if not all of you, are current DocuWare customers, we're going to take a quick look at the differences between intelligent indexing and IDP. We'll talk about why people choose to go with IDP, and then we'll talk pricing. So what is DocuWare IDP? DocuWare IDP is one of the, if not the largest large document model in existence. It has over 340 million reference points. It's enabled to be a solution for a lot of different areas, but when combined with DocuWare, we see a lot of increased value. You have rule-based document processing, you have significant reductions in time spent keying data. You have a simplified approval process via task, email, and Teams. When you combine that with IDP, it just kind of enhances everything you're doing. You can extract data from more dynamic or complicated documents or documents with little to no structure. It allows you to really take a new approach to both organizing and using the data you have. Keying data. I mean, currently intelligent indexing is a great tool to stop the repetitive indexing of documents, but it still takes time. You still have someone going in, moving things around trays, making sure the correct intelligent indexing works together. And we can start to remove that piece by integrating AI into the workflow. So what exactly are we doing? You know, at a high level here, we begin with OCR. Every document that's sent to IDP is OCR'd. And once that happens, we're looking at some pre-processing, whether that's cropping, potentially splitting. We just want to clean up the data. Next, we would want to classify it. We want to hand IDP a document and it tells us what type of document that is. And then we extract data. Once all those steps are complete, you still have DocuWare as your secure archive for the workflow automations and search and retrieval of your documents. So let's kind of look at what that would look like for a more applicable approach. You have cropping. So we can see this image, you know, cropping is removing excess white space or just really getting rid of the noise. So we'll crop it down to the document and then we'll move on to the processing. So we talked about splitting. So the idea behind splitting is to simplify the batch scan process. You don't need to use separators, you don't need to use barcodes. You have AI to intelligently split the documents based on your data. Now, once these documents are split, we can step into the classification step, which is where DocuWare IDP will recognize the type of document it's looking at. And because we know what we're looking at, we are really good at figuring out what data you want extracted from it. So for invoices, maybe you want this data set. For resumes, maybe it's something completely different, but you get to specify. Now, while we're talking about extraction, there's also two market improvements with DocuWare AI. We can take, you know, really complex documents, but also poor scan quality or weathered documents. Maybe documents that have been on a receiving room floor or coming out of the back of a truck tend to work a lot better with DocuWare IDP. And we can also process handwritten documents, as you'll see. So with all of these, you know, what is the process right now? Currently, you're dropping a document into a tray, you're looking at it, depending what it is, you might move it to another tray, you're intelligent indexing, you're pressing store, and the workflows kick off. With DocuWare IDP, it just happens. I like to think of it as a save button, and rather than clicking ignore OneDrive, browse, finding my folder, you just click save now. The rest is filled in. And with that, because we're really good at breaking up these processes, we have a very broad range of applications and places we can put this in to provide value. Really, it bases around the document types for invoices, purchase orders, packing slips, or shipping labels. Maybe that's going into an accounts payable automation, or maybe POs and shipping labels go into logistic management. But whatever you have in your workflows, all of this can improve the automation because we can start processing a document at inception. So we've kind of looked at some document types and some processes that work well with IDP. So what are the top areas for using it? Now, what we see is a high velocity of paperwork. That's going to be the most obvious one. I mean, I would imagine some of you have 30 emails since you joined this webinar. I mean, how many emails are you going to have when you check after this? The question I have for you is, what if AI was able to separate the junk from the important stuff? Now, you also have different processes for each document type. Now, I know I do. I have sales orders that go to process A. I have quote requests that go to process B, NDAs C, exceptions D. You get the idea. Now, what if I could kick off all of those workflows instantly because DocuWare recognizes the document I'm working on? Moving over, we'll see poor scan quality. The AI assists the OCR to get a higher level of satisfaction with your data extraction and a higher degree of accuracy. And we also work well with unstructured data. So you can see this in a couple different ways, but the ability for the AI to recognize, data without really a forced pattern or forced structure can greatly speed up a lot of your processes. And we see that really with contracts management, which we'll get into. And we'll also see error-prone, time-consuming interventions. So like I said, typically you're seeing 95 to 99% accuracy with your extraction results. I've never met a person that does 99% correct. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give that one the thumbs up. And manual interventions. Like I've said, DocuWare wants to minimize clicks. We want to remove as much data entry as we can from your day-to-day life. With all of this together, you should see a significant dip in manual interventions of these document processes. So let's take a look at some use cases. Automatic invoice processing. So I would imagine most of you, if not a lot of you, are using DocuWare for some type of AP process. And you can see really how it just enhances the process from simplifying and automating a lot of the manual steps. An automated inbox. Similar, so you could even think of this as the AP email address. Really, everything is being parsed, classified, stored, and then workflows are happening without someone managing the box. Contract management. So here we talk about risk identification, but to me this really is more the key pieces of information. So you have these long kind of obtuse contracts that a lot of times you just want all right, what's the start date, what's the end date, is there a payment elevator? You want the quick notes, the facts. And because we're really good at working with unstructured data, it's really easy to get those pieces of information using DocuWare IDP. And you'll see that within the demo. Processing insurance claims. So we'll see a little bit of this in the demo, but really the idea behind this is these complex tasks that are going to go across a wide variety of document types and going to have different processes in each of the points. So I think of an insurance claim when I think of this. There's going to be some handwriting aspects to it mostly. There's going to be some wide varieties of documents. They're going to be bundled, so they may need to be split to be processed. And you're going to have a variety of checkpoints. You're going to have a variety of approvals. You're going to make sure all of the documents are there. And all of these things that are just simplified with DocuWare and DocuWare IDP. Now with that, I'm going to hand it over to my co-presenter, Chad, for a live demo. Chad, can you hear us?
Hey, yes. Hey everyone, I'm Chad. I'm with the DocuWare Professional Services team. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. And I will show you a few use cases today. First scenario will be, say I'm working for an insurance company, like Brendan mentioned. I'm gathering all different types of supporting documentation. So I have a license and an accident report here. For the demo today, I have it in my tray, but just remember that it does not require, whoops. Am I sharing the wrong screen? Yes, I am. Sorry about that. Thank you. So I have the document tray here, but as I was saying, just a reminder, the documents do not need to arrive in the tray or do not need to go into the tray initially for IDP to process them. So that's an advantage with IDP. They could be stored from an email, from your email box, from a scan, or just a direct import right into the file cabinet. So I'll go ahead and store these, and we can see the magic. Okay, so those documents were stored, and I'm going to check my searches here. Okay, it just takes a few seconds for it to process the documents. And as you can see here, all the information from this license has been pulled in automatically. So there were a couple things that happened behind the scenes here. First, DocuWare IDP classified the document, so identified it as a driver's license. And second, it extracted the relevant data that we trained it to do. You can see the name, address, license number, date of birth, all the important information from the document. It also classified that accident report for us. So if we take a look at that, you can see that the town, the date, and all the relevant information from the accident report has been extracted and stored into DocuWare. Next scenario is a little bit of a mix of different documents. There are some employment agreements, invoices, things like that. So I'll go ahead and store those. And for this one, I have a few different lists in DocuWare set up. So right now, it has been sent to DocuWare IDP. It's currently classifying and extracting. We'll just give that a few seconds here. See, as I refresh, these documents are updating in real time. Contracts, same thing. You can see it's automatically filling in the relevant information. Take a look at some of these documents here. This is the sample document Brendan just showed. Pretty poor quality, but if we take a look at the index entries here, you can see that it successfully read all the different line items in the invoice. We've also paired this IDP process with DocuWare workflow task. So you may be familiar with these, but again, it's just a simple approval process here, but it automatically got sent to that. Take another look at the index entries, and we can see down here, this is just an example of how we can actually extract the confidence levels that the AI has on the different fields. So they're a whole number, right? But it would just think of this as a percentage. But it's very confident with some of these. Notice they're all above 95% confident. So what you can do with this is you can actually route documents, say they are low quality, low confidence, you can route them to a different workflow task or anything you need to do in your own workflow today. All right, so that is basically it for me. But these are just a few examples. Of course, IDP can do a whole range of different examples. If you're interested, please contact your sales director or your DocuWare partner. Back to you.
Thank you, Chad. Just going to share my screen here. You can see this. Awesome. So we've taken a quick look at it, and we can see that it's easy to kind of organize and route things just immediately. The second it gets into DocuWare, you know what's in there, who it needs to go to, and what pieces of information are available. So why DocuWare IDP? Well, I hope that was a very convincing demo, but let's talk about it. So these models can be trained in hours, days, really depends, but it's a quick turnaround. It's a bespoke AI solution. It's your data, your document classes, and your extraction fields. And these are customized 100% to make sure your requirements are met. And I don't think a lot of other companies are selling these kind of bespoke solutions or custom AI models. So I think it's a really kind of incredible thing here. And let's just kind of recap what we talked about. So we told you DocuWare IDP would simplify how you interact with documents. It would, simplify data extraction of complex documents or poor quality documents or weathered documents. And it's going to save a ton of time storing, evaluating, and routing your documents. Now, we showed you we can simplify the accounts payable process by working the finance documents through these workflows. We showed you that we can simplify your contracts management process. And we showed some ways IDP can simplify complex document processes with a wider variety of incoming documents. So now we've kind of discussed that and showed some of that. We hope that you can walk away with this with some specific processes that you think could be improved with IDP and have an understanding of, what you would gain from a time, effort, and money perspective from implementing these into your process. We also want you to have a good idea of where to start with IDP, because again, I think that's kind of one of the hang-up pieces or struggling pieces that a lot of people are having difficulty navigating. So up next, we'll talk briefly about intelligent indexing versus IDP, and we'll discuss a little bit of pricing and then kind of the next steps. So IDP versus intelligent indexing. This will be shared, so please don't dig too deep into it, but it really comes down to a couple things. The training data, intelligent indexing is a foot forward approach. Each document needs 2 to 3 passes and it's trained. DocuWare IDP will need a little more, but it's open to a wider variety of documents. The model training for IDP is done beforehand, and the model training for intelligent indexing is done during the use. So we're getting a little better accuracy, we're getting a lot better variety. So intelligent indexing is 1-to-1. You have an invoice, intelligent indexing works specifically with that invoices. Whereas DocuWare IDP can extract information from documents it's never seen before. And I think that's kind of the key difference. So kind of going into pricing, this is going to be pretty high level just to give you more of an idea of kind of the value and rough estimates of what you'd be looking to do. So for a sample calculation, you're getting invoices via email or the post offices and sending you invoices, and you need complex line item data to push to your inventory management. And intelligent indexing just doesn't work. So it's 500 invoices every month or 16 documents every day. So it's 6,000 invoices a year. If my Peggy, who just retired, was spending 1 minute on each invoice, which would be pretty impressive, she's spending 100 hours. If I spend $30 an hour, it's $3,000 for just this amount of invoicing in a year. With IDP, that's $1,300. Your break even happens within 6 months. Now let's bump it up. We see 500 invoices and 500 packing slips every month. So now she has double the documents, but also there's that classification piece in it as well. So if she takes a minute with each invoice, a minute with each packing slip, and a minute organizing them, she's up to 24,000 minutes a year. Now, with that, how much time is being saved there? Hundreds of hours, thousands of hours. It grows exponentially as more pieces are added to it. For this, it would be IDP 3K, so $3,000 would cover all of this. Now, I'm not trying to kill Peggy, so I'm not going to put her numbers in for this one, but just to get an idea of the scale, 40,000 invoices and packing slips processed every month, pretty larger enterprise. Then you have 1,000 of those have handwriting, so you're processing, 13,000 documents every day. That would be an IDP 38,600. So not only do I not think Peggy would be able to handle that, but it would also be at almost half the price of Peggy. So what's next? You saw this, you have a good idea of, I think IDP can be really helpful to me in A, B, and C locations or X, Y, and Z workflows. So where do I start? What's next? your authorized DocuWare partner, or your dedicated RSD. You're going to want to reach out to them, and you're going to want to bring them a couple pieces of information. Doc types. So we want to know what kind of documents you're working with, the names of them, and kind of the number. So maybe you have invoices, packing slips, and purchase orders. So you have 3 unique documents, and those are your doc types. Volume, the amount of documents you're processing through each month. Pages. So we do work by document, but for the excessively large documents, we do want to know how big it is. We need to know the average number of pages for the doc type. And then functions. Which IDP functions are you looking to implement? Is it extraction? Is it extraction with handwriting? Maybe you don't need any extraction, but you see some value in just classifying and organizing things. We would just need to know what types of functions you're looking to implement. And finally, samples, samples, samples. Like I said, this is a bespoke solution. If you want a custom demo and a strong quality showing, we need samples. It's your system designed on your documents. So the more we have of your stuff, the better we can show you how it would work. So we kind of, in summary, got a good idea of how it all works, you know, some areas it can improve your current workflows, and we got an idea of the pricing and what to do next. So I think at this time, it's a good point to open it up to Q&A. So no, that's a great question, because it's something I wanted to cover in the PowerPoint, but I don't think it made a ton of sense. So what you're asking for there is generative, and we are not going to generate data. This technology gets. It'll never guess. You say, get me an invoice number, and it goes and finds that invoice number. The key difference there is we don't present incorrect data in the way a generative AI could make something up. And if we give you bad data, it's typically not the data itself, but on the OCR. So a generative AI might be able to do that and use, you know, some logic to get that information, but it could also guess. And that is not what we wanted to do. Yeah, absolutely. So kind of a big question. You can touch on a couple things there. So with the ability to classify, like I said, it's custom. You just tell us what classes and you give us examples, and it'll work from there. So your batch scans, as long as you have examples of that in kind of your data bank, it has no problem separating structured from unstructured or complex from simple. And once it's separated, that's kind of where the magic happens, because you can have that complex, highly structured extraction, or you can have kind of that less structured, the contracts. So it has no problem identifying what is what in terms of the classification. I mean, we could go down how it gets unstructured data all day, and I could bore all of you to death, I'm sure, but effectively the way it's trained, it's looking for key pieces of information in a contract setting. That's typically going to be like key dates, key amounts. So it's looking for those specific pieces of information based on your previous contracts. So yes, a little complicated depending how you want to operate that out, but as long as the customer is fine with having that data transmitted as a web service and DocuWare is currently up to date, there's no reason an on-premise system cannot use IDP. That being said, if you're asking about on-premise IDP as its own server base, I would reach out to your rep or your RSD. So that was annual. The way the pricing is structured is based on consumption. So you fall into a bucket. So let's say it's a $600 bucket, and you classify and extract. Every time you classify, let's say it costs a nickel, and every time you extract, it costs a dime. So every time you call that function, it's deducting from that $600. And as you move up, the individual function prices are going to get lower. So maybe if at, I don't know, IDP 3K, extraction is, what did I say, a nickel, maybe it's 3 cents now or something to that effect. Those are not the correct numbers though, so please keep that in mind. That was just top of the head.
Yep, so just think of IDP as kind of a step prior to coming into DocuWare. If we can already do that with DocuWare using DocuWare export, of course, we can take the index data that was extracted from the documents and generate an output file. So depending on that output file, we can use DocuWare export to do that.
Yeah, I don't see why not. As long as there's some type of key being extracted that maybe has a one-to-one pair, that would be pretty specific though. So I would definitely reach out to the RSD or DocuWare rep that you work with just to go over the process more in depth. But I don't see why it wouldn't be able to. Yeah, so we can kind of walk through that, what we just saw. So ultimately, IDP is, in what we showed you, is connected via workflow. So anytime a document was stored with the status of IDP, it kicked off a workflow that sent the document to IDP for that function, whether it was a classification or an extraction. We can skip the tray. Like we said, it was a staging area because we forced it to always hit that workflow. And then based on the result of that workflow, it's transferring to another cabinet. Little tricky. Happy to connect after this if you want to send me an email for that. Yeah, if you're a current DocuWare customer, I would just see if intelligent indexing works. There's really two ways to slice that. If you care about the manual intervention and the time-consuming part of intelligent indexing, where everything's going to sit in a tray until someone physically moves it and indexes it, then go with intelligent indexing. If it's not a speed-oriented, go with intelligent indexing. If it is, you have the option to use IDP. Now, in terms of what works best with what, I like to imagine what you already pay for is the best solution. So if it works with intelligent indexing, I would just run with it. There's no reason to pay for a new solution when you already have one that works. But really, the ultimate answer is testing. Table data is kind of the big giveaway. And when you see contracts, the unstructured data is where IDP really shines. Oh, by forms, yes, absolutely. I would happily talk about it, but we are running up on time and that's going to get in the thick of it. So what I will say is the index data and the documents are stored for at least 14 days. So it's going to live within the IDP platform for 2 weeks for that recovery. Now, it's going to live in DocuWare as long as it lives in DocuWare. So as long as you map the data correctly, you shouldn't really worry about retrieving that old data. If you are worried about it, you do have that 14-day window. Awesome. So a couple things before we jump, just because they come up frequently. Let's talk about kind of your data and your privacy or your security. So within the custom models, it's trained on your company data. And a lot of people are hesitant because they, for obvious reasons, don't want AI to be trained on their data. Now, what's actually happening with DocuWare and why it's different is we're effectively making a little branch of our model that's pre-trained on those 340 million reference points. And then we're supplementing your data with it for your little instance. And why that's important is because once you are no longer a DocuWare customer, that data goes along with the branch. So your production data, like I said, is going to live there for 14 days. The training data is going to live for as long as you're an active customer. But in terms of DocuWare using your documents to train our AI, It doesn't quite work like that unless you're using a pre-built one. And even then, there's an in-depth paper on data anonymization and how the documents split up. So there's no way to reconstruct the documents. That seems to be a big sticky point for a lot of people, is the functionality of it. For that, I would point to the DocuWare website and the white paper on document processing. Other than that, I'm happy to follow up with anyone if there's questions or emails. Obviously, your RSD or your DocuWare partner is going to be the first person to reach out to. But other than that, I think we are good. So I am going to, oh, does it work? Am I still sharing? I am. Say, please give feedback. I've gotten to do a couple of these, always looking to improve. We take this very seriously. And if you hated what I did, I'm just going to blame it all on Chad anyways. So please give honest and good feedback. And with that, I would like to say thank you. Once again, I'm Brendan Smith. I'm the Channel Sales Manager for the East. And we had Chad on, who is our Senior Solutions Engineer. Hope to answer any questions. I hope you had a good time. Thanks.